Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to the Osamania Long No Tournament 4th edition. Once again, back with yet another VOD. Right, we have this stream going to be the map pool showcase for the finals right after we have had quite the awesome semifinals bracket to be presented. This one going to be late on Monday once again, but this is going to be the final stream for the time being, so you all have a few days to breathe before we get onto the finals, which is where everything's going to ramp up. We approach the end game as the tournament goes on, and this is exactly what this map pool is going to encapsulate, as this is the penultimate map pool in general. So hope you all have been looking forward to this. Once again, I'm Epic Man 2, and I am joined again by Imperial Trini. What's rockin'?
Hello. It's been very exciting. I think we have quite some matches we've seen this last weekend or just yesterday. Some very exciting matches that were very close, so can't wait to see them again when they go neck to neck next week on this finals pool, which is going to be quite a bit of a step up in my opinion, although the players don't seem to care that much about the rise in difficulty. What do you have to say about that?
I mean, to be fair, just knowing how insane the Mania community has gotten at LNs as time went on, like, it's really insane to think about how good everyone is as long note patterns at this point. Like, I remember back in the first iteration and the second iteration where, like, people used to properly struggle, and now literally majority of these map pools are just child's play. This map pool itself is as difficult as grand finals from mLN4. So that should tell you how hard it is, but but hopefully the maps that we have in store are definitely going to be able to curb your enthusiasm here. So starting off with the first map, going to be a bit of an interesting map from a guest mapper, going to be none other than our Coordination 1 pick.
Yes, it's going to be quite a map as we continue our trend with our Coordination 1. Wait, hold on.
Oh.
Small mistake, guys. Here. We have a fun lore before we go into the map pool showcase. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Play the visual novel. Go.
You be? Yeah. Couldn't wrap my head around what went down yesterday. Yeah, she showed up again. Gave me a hell of a night. You wouldn't understand if you don't experience it yourself. That's what I'm trying to figure out as well. Like, how did she get her hands on Aria? I suppose I owe you guys an explanation though. Aria was a brilliant student majoring in food science. She decided to join the Crescent Moon Launch as my apprentice while I was the manager of their newly opened branch in Zion. I took good care of her. In fact, she was someone I considered family, in a place far from home. But this all changed when we tried to save Crescent Moon Launch from a market crash. We used some meat of unknown origin without hygiene clearance, and that caused a mass poisoning. Yeah, I was the one who started it all. The thing they call COVID, that disease. It caused death and conflict that I can't even begin to describe to you. It only made sense for me to be on the run. I am being chased by the police as we speak. They demanded an explanation, but all I could do was to hide like a coward. I placed the blame on her, gave her a hefty sum of money to accept the blame, and I told her to run away. But the executioner said that Aria is also infected and in her custody. And that is what it amounts to. I not only destroyed the livelihood of many, but also ruined the life of a brilliant girl whom I held so close to my heart. And now, the whims of fate close in. I might not even be able to salvage my dreams or yours. I'm sorry for deceiving you. I wouldn't be surprised if you guys were disgusted by what I did, because I am too. But make no mistake, I've decided to right all of these wrongs. I am not going to simply throw in the towel and turn in. Even if I do due to the machinations of the executioner, I am not going down without a plan or a fight. It's up to you if you want to tag along in this fight. If any of you would like to opt out from all of this, I won't stop you from doing so. Thank you for believing in me. I was already going to face it on my own. But your support reassures me a lot that this choice is the best for me, for Arya, and for all of us. Now, let's get back to the topic at hand. Let's start with this alien the executioner talks about. I think she calls them Centauri? All of these apocalyptic events back on Earth, they seem to originate from an alien species called the Centauri. The way she accused me, it seems to be true. I'm gonna give her a quick call. Been calling her a lot recently, but no one picks up. Yeah, I think the executioner really is holding her hostage in exchange for my confession, but I don't know how I'm gonna get around this. Perhaps our greatest chance is in catching her off guard and destroying her primordial soul. The Cerulean records is suggesting that there is such a method.
And there you have it. That was our visual novel sequence. So once again, we do apologize. We didn't know that we were gonna have it, but that aside, we do hope you enjoyed the little additional sprinkle of lore as we get to see the map pool itself. So introducing 2 more slots, we do have some new slots here and there, going to be maxing out the amount of maps we have on the map pools, but this is going to be our Golden Age 1 map, as I have alerted to earlier. Going to be none other than Hey Flare, made by Haylog, mapped by none other than Logan636.
Yeah, so continuing with our... Oh, one sec.
Whoops.
We have a small technical difficulty.
Oh. It's okay.
There we go.
All right, there we go.
Okay, yeah. So continuing with our funny Coordination 1 trend or gimmick, however you want to put it. We have another Coordination 1, and in the finals, this is no slouch either. It is as hard as it has gotten, with a whopping OD of 9. So highest we have seen so far, and this throws pretty much every wrench into the equation. We have small release gaps, short LNs, flam releases, releasing into thin air, you name it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, keep going.
Yep. Yeah, this map is definitely quite interesting for what it has to offer. This one gonna be different in terms of song choice than some of the other maps we've gone, as this is a lot more shoegaze oriented, but it also has a lot of influences from noise rock as well. So Haylog is definitely a bit of an interesting band, so to say, that's a little more on the contemporary side of things, which we can kind of see from here, especially incorporate into a release map where it basically tests you on what you usually expect of release maps, but incorporate some dump into it as well, alongside some really tight releases. Going to be making this 93 BPM, with most releases being around 1/8 of a gap.
Yeah, there are some parts with smaller than that, but that is part of the challenge. You do have some of these inverse shield elements included in here. The low BPM plays into the difficulty as well, with like, it might be a little hard to keep tempo, especially with this, like what Epic Man has said about this like shoegaze sort of music genre is a little bit just slightly hard to kind of keep tempo compared to something that's a little bit more, you know, drum or percussion accentuated music. But this does have that flowy flam element which fits to the song itself that players will have to contend with, especially with how small some of these LNs, as well as the intricate LN length variations, makes this particularly difficult to navigate. Also, again, with low combo count, missing is fatal, most likely, with the remainder players that we have that they each will have to face.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with this map going into the final few seconds where it is basically the loudest it gets, and this is basically where the releases are probably the tightest that we've seen. Basically incorporating some 1/12 releases here and there, which are basically just close to 40 milliseconds of a gap between when you have to let go of the gas and then push right back into it. Even if it's for just a few seconds at the ending, it really packs that punch that makes this map all the more daunting to go through, really fueling your mental accuracy that can really put the tainter in that in general. So once again, interesting guest map from the likes of Logan. He had a lot of maps back in mLN4, and this is going to be a bit of a surprise pick from us, as well as we can continue with the coordination maps, in which for the next one, going to be basically one of the more conventional maps that we have got. It's gonna be none other than Hakai by Mysterion.
Okay, so a little bit about this map. This map is pretty hard. I think it's actually probably one of the harder maps in the finals pool altogether. minus the tiebreaker, obviously. You have very fast and also quite extended anchors on this high BPM of 294, which these anchor jacks will be at like 147, so they're quite speedy, especially when they go to like 3, 4, even 5 no anchors. Players might find a little bit issue on that finger coordination aspect to this. So this is pretty difficult in that regard, but if the players are comfortable at that BPM of jacks, they might find themselves, you know, quite liking this map, because some players aren't able to play these sort of shieldy patterns at this BPM. But we will have to see what the remainder players can offer with their scores.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a lot of players that we have remaining in the tournament have really proven their worth when it comes to a lot of these more timing hell oriented maps that we have been thrown here and there throughout some of these map pools alone. And this is basically what's going to ramp it up for Coordination 2, which was usually a little more distinguished than Coordination 3, which is basically what you usually expect of regular timing hell maps as we've seen from quarterfinals onwards. But this map takes it to a bit of a new extreme that we're going to be seeing for this finals map pool. And right as Potaraj has landed in the Twitch chat, this was originally for qualifiers, but then we all realized that it was a little too hard. Like,
yeah,
that's definitely something insane.
Yeah, like the quote-unquote difficulty, by the way, from our playtester was like, this is close, if not on the same level as MWC Grand Finals. So this is like sort of like the Coordination 1 from MWC Grand Finals type of difficulty. But I think it might be a little bit harder at certain parts, just because some of these patterns are even more abrasive than what people are probably familiar with. As we do have some of these intense flams on top of these anchor jacks that are just alternating between left and right constantly. Especially with this extended course on this final section, I think players might find a little bit of difficulty FCing potentially, except for maybe a few of our top players, but we will have to see next week.
Indeed, as that will be concluding our Coordination 2 picks. So far we've got the two initial Coordination picks, which are highly distinguished from each other by quite a big margin. So the cherry on top for this Coordination category that we will be having is going to be none other than what we've got. It's going to be yet another Vocaloid song, Setsuna Trip by Kiyori-chan, song or cover by Yuki Ono.
Kori-chan is also Chibi Sanae, for those that may know him by that alias. But another shield-focused map, but this one is more, how do I put it, less long anchor dependent, and more on the constant jack, sort of like the inverse jack pick, I guess is how you would kind of view this pick as, whereas the other one is more like anchor and a little bit more technical. And this one is a little bit more straightforward, but it's very brutal because you don't get as many breaks, especially with the extended courses. It does get quite difficult at places.
Yeah, indeed. This map is, especially for following the regular formula of being a timing hell map, this definitely ticks off a bunch of the checkboxes that you probably would have expected to have checked off. This one is definitely a bit more distinguished from Coordination 2 in comparison, because especially trying to contrast it with Mysterian's style of timing hell, this definitely is a lot more kind of physical in a way in terms of how it manages a lot of these kind of embedded core jack within the LNs. You see a lot of these short LNs, and it's also fairly long as well, being able to put that damper in your consistency, which is definitely a bit of a solid choice for if you're looking to try and put in a consistency check against your opponent in the finals bracket here, especially with this map clocking in at nearly 3 minutes length.
Yeah, definitely. I think players, I'm not too sure about the actual physical limits of the remaining players, but I would have to imagine that this will be more combo oriented rather than acking, but you know, they can surprise me with their aptitude in this game. As we do see our replayer miss here in this transition section, which just shows that the difficulty of this pool is quite up there in terms of how demanding it is for the players to be that consistent on this kind of pick.
Yeah, indeed, especially with how physical the map is overall. It's a really good contrast from Coordination 2 as well, because while this is like basically the same length, it's a lot more anchory, and also a little less technical on that factor as well. So, but that is going to conclude it for the Coordination category that we've got. So still sticking to 3 maps. This is basically what we got for the rest of the tournament, as we do have the 4 tech picks for this finals round. So the next one actually gonna be a non-custom map. Actually, it's gonna be none other than this map, into the Chord Zone and LM, mapped by Hilotl. Interesting song.
Yeah, this one's a funny map. It's also OD 8.2, and by funny, you're gonna see some very interesting patterns in this map. I don't know if players are familiar with this map. I think this may have been used for a national or a smaller tournament in the recent past, but now it is here in finals of mLN. So this map does feature some of these like very funny, awkward bursts, as well as like these very tight patternings. I don't really know how to properly describe them in a sense, but these like tight, bursty, flammy patterns are very easy to trip up and might catch some players off guard if they are not ready, or if they do finger lock. Might spell a disaster for them if they do not hold their consistency throughout these patterns. But you do have like relatively decent breaks, so it's not super physical in terms of the overall strain on your hands, but the finger or hand speed you need is quite demanding on this map.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially this map being a lot more kind of experimental in comparison to some of the coordination maps that we have. This is a very solid contrast from Tech 1 in the previous round, where it basically continues having some of these really odd releases and short LNs. If you were to put this side by side to 19ZZ especially, but this follows less IDM and it's more future rhythm in comparison. Honestly, shout outs to Chord Zone. They're definitely a very interesting artist that I haven't heard of in quite the while, but I remember their works were actually just literally good as hell, you know? So it's also to see that it's reflected just as well in this map alone from Hilotl.
Definitely. We did see earlier slightly our replayer missed on, I think probably hardest pattern on this map is like the 3-no anchor nested within a bunch of bursts that makes it very easy to trip up on both, not only potentially your finger coordination, but also your reading, because this is a reading test as well with all of this fast bursts and condensed sections. It's quite difficult at times to navigate through, especially with like how like the song is very burst, flammy, stop and go kind of feel, which makes it all that more challenging for the players, which they will have to contend with.
Yeah, this map definitely has the pretty good balance of, while it is very technical, a lot of these insane flams that you just have like scattered everywhere across the floor, it does its job on being a little less physical than some of the other maps in the map pool, being more on that side of the spectrum where it challenges more your discomfort for some of these patterns instead, and also being nearly 4 minutes of length. This is basically just nearly the length of a marathon itself, or well, technically a marathon in itself if this was to be put into Mania ranked mapping terms, but at the same time, the map does end up on a pretty somber note as well. Gonna be really calm as we have the final piano solo in, and that final Ellen, which hopefully nobody misses on, because there's literally just nothing at that point. But yeah, that is Tech 1, as we have here.
Yeah, please don't miss on air. It is, I guess, cinema for the viewers if the match is being streamed. So, you know, maybe you'll put up a show by missing randomly in the air. But anyways, moving on to our second technical map, we have a funny map, and this is Somniomancer from Arknights, map by me. And I think this might be one of the harder maps of the pool altogether. So this is going to be your, how do I describe this map? Stream, but not really map. So it's stream oriented, but it's like anti-flow streams, as well as a lot of nested anchors that help throw you off of your comforting on your trilling or your speed oriented like hand finger positioning. And this is also going to be 8 stars exactly on the live servers. So also shout out to Arknights. Is a game of all time, let's put it that way.
Yeah, so always gotta rep those really cool games in general, you know?
Yeah, so I guess I can describe a little bit more about the map. But the map does feature a lot of these 150 BPM anchors in the middle of your streams that alternate between your left and right hand constantly. As well as these patterns where they have rolls, but then there's also like staircases that are just constantly shifting and between the instrumental and the vocals.
Indeed, this map has a lot to offer for the gauntlet that it is. It contrasts with Tech 1 in terms of being a really dump-oriented map, but this one is less about unconventionality, but more about just roll consistency alone. You have a lot of these Jesus patterns that are just scattered through this section alone, where you literally have to hit a lot of these jacks at 150 BPM, but somehow it still literally just feels so insanely hard to hit, where, you know, it's just hard to keep intact with everything if you have like constant streams everywhere, where it's just like literally crossing the line between being very flow oriented or anti-flow, as you mentioned.
Yeah. You do have a small break in this middle before the last drop. A little bit just to catch your breath, but also just enough so that you're not falling asleep to the music as well.
I mean, as the difficulty name says, it literally just wants to wake up, so
yes. So yeah, on the final drop, the last section is, I think, by far the hardest section of the map in terms of physicality. So do watch out for the last diff spike. It is very difficult for a lot of our replayers.
Oh yeah, this part as well. The ending section is crazy. Oh my goodness gracious. You just can't miss there. If you miss, it's over. Don't do what the replayer did. Don't do what Senora did there. Yeah. But yeah, that is going to do it for Tech 2. So, awesome map, Imperial. Always love to see this type of stuff in the map polls. And once again, we do have another custom for Tech 3. Going to be none other than another interesting map, so to say. Going to be Kiss Lord Receptor by Umikyoku. Don't tell anyone it's Potterage.
How do I describe this map? I guess I can describe it in 2 ways. One, it is not really, but kind of, in the sense of the shield usage from his qualifier, but at the same time, it does not play anything like it, because there's no semblance of comfortability in this map. And the second way to describe this map is, there is essence of the map Get Crunk in this map, at least in spirit.
Yeah.
For those who are familiar with that map, as he is, I wouldn't say inspired, maybe he was, but he was enlightened, so to speak. Let's put it that way. Yeah, but this map is also difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely looks like hell to play, just having to keep up with all these anchors and jacked a bit in between the streams, but it's definitely a bit of an interesting song to see regardless. I do know that Receptor is a bit of a lost relic in time when it comes to the featured artists in this game, but fun fact, I do believe the song actually stems from the fact that I recommended this song to be used back in the Two Shot Cup 2 qualifiers as well as the jump stream pick. So Pasaraj probably looked at the song and basically said that, you know, he had to make it for this round as well. So here we are. It's literally just like difficult.
I don't know how else to describe like what Patu Raj LN, like high level LN or hard LN is. It's also kind of like Magnitude, I guess, from, if you guys remember from MWC just recently. It is that as well, in terms of like, stylistically, in terms of mapping. It's very like, pattern repetition focused, but also on top of just swapping it between each of the columns in the least fun way, or maybe the most fun way if you're into that, so... But this song is very short for comparatively to the other technical picks, actually. It's only 2:30, but you don't have that much of a rest in the middle, so players do need to have a little bit of that stamina for this as well. But that is it for our third technical pick. And then, like what Epic Man has said earlier, we do have our fourth technical pick now for this round as well as our next round. And this is going to be Breach. Belaine featuring Tasha Baxter at 1.05 rate, and this is mapped by both your favorite LN mappers of Christ Arlene Serenade and also Felix Spade in a two-man collab in this map.
This is definitely looking to be a bit of an interesting map. So from what I can see from the notes, it basically describes this as being Beast but harder. So
yes.
The fact that you have these two names like in the mix already goes to show that you're basically in for a treat. You're literally gonna have to breach protocol your way through the whole map itself, as it follows up on the roots that would have been laid on the groundwork from Beast itself as a map, because that one was hell to play in terms of how it manages a lot of these dump-oriented patterns on Neurofunk songs, and especially with Belane's songs in principle being a lot more crunchier and dense in that sound design department. It really adds on to that danger that you're going to be seeing within this map alone, which you could already see here going into the first chorus.
But yeah, this is actually just Beast but harder. It's the Serenade technical formula, so to speak, on top of some parts mapped by Felix Spade himself. But you do have a lot of these flammy, rolly, as well as just a little bit very dense burst patterns within your LN that you have to navigate through. As well as these like extended TI sections are no slouch in terms of how it hits your consistency and physicality together. So I think this is also one of the, I don't actually know if this one's another harder map, but I imagine this one might be hard to FC if you're not comfortable at this fast shields of 183 BPM. It's not the fastest we've seen, but it is definitely up there in terms of what the pool has to offer so far.
Yeah, indeed, especially with this map clocking at about nearly just basically 6 seconds shy of the 3-minute marker. It really does go to show that this map itself, albeit a whole minute shorter than Beast, definitely packs a whole punch with how intense a lot of these patterns are, especially with the dumps that you have in a lot of these aspects, as well as like how it's embedded within the streams and also outside with some of these rice notes as well, being able to create the balance and the friction that you're basically gonna need within a map like this that makes it for a pretty competent pick for when in doubt in a match. So definitely something that you can at least eke out points on with some of these really odd and uncomfortable patterns that you can have in the map itself. But that's basically going to be it. Going to be going through these final staggered LNs to end the map off, and that is it. We've reached the summit, and that is going to be it for all of the tech maps alongside the new Tech 4 pick.
So, another technical picks, but, like we have said in previous broadcasts, not all the picks are hard set in stone in these categories. They can flow between categories, but it's what we believe to be, the best representation from them. So, but at the end of the day, we are just mapping and picking songs that we like. So, take that with a small grain of salt. But moving on to our wildcard category now, we have our wildcard map, and
We got a little something to show.
yes.
And there you have it. Variations on Transcendence, a brand new original for the LN4 tournament, going to be composed by none other than the two forces joining how to play LN and Enemy, making their debut in the LN4 tournament. Both these incredible artists have come together to put on such an amazing song for the wildcard 1 slot, and we cannot thank them enough for making something that's this amazing. So much production value has gone into it. But of course, I may as well read out the credits for it. And as we can see here, the lovely woman in the background alongside the rest of the background itself as was illustrated by Enkun. The GFX was done by Bullmaster Flex and Alex Dunk. And as for the preview video and VFX itself was done, once again, by Crew K. So, once again, amazing custom song that we had to showcase here for the finals bracket. What do you think of it, Imperial?
I think it's kind of hard, but I think some players might find this also enjoyable because of the difficulty. But this is mapped by Einer and Felix Spade, the Indonesian mappers, collabing once again on this custom song. So we thanks to everyone who has worked very hard on this, and so we can bring this to fruition. But this is again our custom song for this finals pool on Wildcard 1.
Indeed. So yeah, amazing wildcard 1 as mentioned earlier, and this will be our initial introduction to the wildcard category for this round in general. So we still have quite the bunch of our wildcard maps to unveil for this round here, in which we can move on to the next one. So gonna be wildcard 2. We've got none other than another custom map, actually. It's gonna be Lost Journey, Iowa featuring Hatsune Miku and Flower, mapped by none other than Mike Leak.
Yes, so we have another Mike Leak map in the pool, and also another Iowa song technically, but this time it's with Hatsune Miku and Flower and not a cover by a singer. But we do have more of that Iowa song styling in terms of how the music is represented. So we will see some bursts as well as these speedy patterns throughout the map. And if you're familiar with Mike Leak, he is a staple in the LN mapping community. So his style on representing the vocals is unprecedented as well. So we'll see how the way he, layers his LNs on this, landing it into the wildcard slot. So fairly challenging for the players.
Indeed, this definitely picks up on the roots that would have been laid on the groundwork from Heat Abnormal from the Lost round, which was a 40M reuse and so on. Except this map is a little different. It still carries on with some of the more technical patterns, but it's maybe a little less physical. It basically combines a bunch of these broken jump stream and stream and dump patterns here and there to be able to provide the map with that extra flair of difficulty and abstractness that it kind of needs to characterize itself.
Yeah, definitely. But this map does have a lot of these like flammy patterns again, and these I think the map, well, a little bit about the backstory. The map was technically supposed to be for technical, but it was just a little bit too flowy and quote-unquote comfortable for it to warrant in that slot. So it has now landed itself comfortably in one of the wildcard slots here. So there might be some like vestigial remains of like that small technical element, but that is, I think, a given for how challenging or how diverse the patterns can get on this map specifically. So I'm not sure if I think players might still be able to FC quite comfortably on this map, but we'll see when the matches start next week. But that will do it for our wildcard 2, as we have just some of these last LNs to hold. And also,
Indeed.
if you guys haven't noticed, but and also people are talking in the chat, but it is replayed by Oroast as well as several other maps previously. So shout outs to him for making these insane replays and insane scores. So thank you for helping us and lending a hand on the replays. But we will continue with our wild card. So we are halfway through our wild card. So now we are on the third wild card, and it is going to be Afflict, another Riza Yuzuki vocal, mapped by another Felix Spade. Although the name suggests timing hell, it is in our wildcard 3 slot. And this is going to be our fast BPM, 290 BPM map song in this category. So
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, the map is definitely quite interesting for what it has to offer. This is Felix Spade's second strike in the finals map pool after what we have seen of Breach, and this one is definitely going to be quite the game changer here. Going to be Afflict by Lar. Definitely a very recognizable artist when it comes to the grand scheme of things in rhythm games, especially with this one being a little more of a metal-oriented song. This one, basically 290 BPM. It kind of simulates that of the timing hell maps, but kind of takes it more into the wildcard category at that to distinguish itself from the other two timing hell oriented maps that we have in the coordination category, but also as the extra spice as this is just about one of the longer ones as well, 4 minutes of length, and it basically is such a spicy pick as you would expect. This is basically just really difficult in general, so yeah.
I think players are going to find the consistency aspect of this map probably the most daunting task for how consistent the song is, as well as what Epic Man has mentioned, the song length. As well, and there's also the small quote-unquote break section where it does slow down the BPM a little bit to I believe it's 200 BPM, but it's only for 30 seconds or so, and it speeds right back up to the initial BPM of 290. So don't get your hopes up for this small break in this midsection.
Oh yeah. Yeah, indeed. But yeah, the map still basically in contrast with all the other timing hell maps that we have. This one combines more of the timing hell formula, but incorporates more broken streams inside of it as well, being able to incorporate some of that Scumper category into this pick alone, which basically makes it a very crucial one as well, which can definitely be one of the few picks that you can incorporate to add onto the pressure of your opponent, because the map itself is very stamina intensive for the most part, except from maybe the 3-minute mark of the map itself where you basically have a little bit of a break. But also, I need to correct myself on one thing. This is actually Felix Spade's third strike into the whole map pool itself, because he also mapped Wildcard 1. Just had to mention that.
I was gonna mention it, but it's okay because it's a bunch of collabs. So if you combine the half collab of the other two, it's actually a second technically. But we're splitting hairs on that one. But yeah. As this map continues, it does not let up at all throughout any of these sections. This BPM alone, on top of the anchors we see at this ending section, might trip some players up in terms of their, maybe their physical limit, or maybe just their, how do I put it, their consistency physical limit, where they feel comfortable playing this and acting this. They might struggle on that aspect, but we will see, like I said before. But now this song has ended with the long, arduous 4 minutes, and that is it for our third wildcard pick. And we have our last wildcard pick, but not the least.